Okay, so I'm gonna try to upload more. I just I don't know. Every single time I do a channel that's specifically revolving around like the truth about a lot of different things and not just certain topics, well, honestly, regardless, it gets banned. And this specific channel has been banned a couple times. Aside from the whole situation with my relatives compromised in the Wisdemic channel, which I have playlists with links to those videos, but I still can't get back in the channel because the email was stolen. Or, well, hijacked. So, yeah, anyways, a couple of my channels throughout the years have been banned. Not that I was ever, really making videos like that. Because, I didn't really like the talking videos for a while. And it was another thing. Oh, yeah. A lot of censorship had kicked up, and then I was kind of like, well, I had that one channel that I considered a conspiracy theory channel, which I don't even like that term. That term is bullcrap. But it's like I had that at 8, but after a while I kind of got tired of the stuff labeled off as conspiracies, quote unquote, because it was just too much mess. It was too much of the European flipped around hijacking of the Bible. And it didn't focus enough on character improvement, especially with just the generational issues I knew I needed to fix. And I just got tired of that crap, to be honest. And I actually knew this other kid who did the same thing. He said he kind of got tired of the conspiracy theory crap because he had a lot of issues of his own that he really needed to fix. And it just didn't really help. And it's most of that stuff is revolving around the Christianity, pagan, flipped around hijacking of the Bible anyway. So, there's some truth to it, but I really couldn't take all the stuff that was being said that wasn't true. From the bullcrap rapture doctrine to the flipped around end time story, just the false doctrines in general of all types, just got annoying, and I really just couldn't watch that stuff anymore. And then I didn't really see the need of making conspiracy videos. And like I said in another video, I don't even this is a Bible channel. I definitely don't consider it a Christian channel, but I also wouldn't even really consider it a conspiracy channel. I really just feel like my goal is to talk about true things in general, which is always my goal. I make videos just to make them, not really for people to watch them, but it is kind of upsetting that I always get banned before I even get one view. Funny enough, the Wisdemic channel that I can't get back into actually got a pretty good amount of views, somewhat, but I can't get back into it, so that's kind of whatever, I guess. But my goal is to have the people on the channel that really should be. I don't want people to come on here feeling like I'm trying to start arguments with people, or people that like to ban people. None of that. And since I'm still right now and I'm not doing too much or too busy, I feel like this is a good time to start making videos, especially the videos that I've procrastinated about for forever and a day. This video is going to be about, well, did I already say this? I don't even know. ladder.Jacob. I'm going to read 1 or 2 chapters. This is what the Freemason diagram symbology is about with the ladder. I've actually always had this theory that the song is Skedet by, was that Lil Pump or was that the other dude? I don't even know, but I always felt like that song was about Jacob's ladder. Because Skedet means ladder to the top. I'm going to edit in some pictures of the Freemason diagram. I use these same pictures in the Song Dream video, and the part 1 and maybe the part 2 and maybe the part 3 of my Gravity Falls breakdown. I'm going to read chapter 1, chapter 4. This can also go into the flipped around version of the end times. Because, like, this talks about, of course, the true end times, but, like, the religious organizations have people waiting for a rapture, waiting to grow wings and fly away, waiting to disappear out of thin air and pre-trib. People think that the 144,000 is going to be... Honestly, I don't even know how they flipped it around, because it's like if you read the book, you can't even get any of that out of there. But they think the 144,000 is going to be the Gentiles of the church, even though it's like the exact opposite of literally what the 144,000 is. And somehow that also flipped into this doctrine that only 144,000 people are going to heaven. And it's like, if that's true, then people might as well go ahead and start fighting now about who's getting there, because like people are gonna be fighting at the gate, because if that's true, then like, shoot, I mean, it's over. I don't even know how people, like, honestly, since people really believe that, I feel like, shoot, that's the great falling away, because people will be like, well, dang, if 144,000 people are only getting into heaven, then I might as well go ahead and fall away. But yeah. And it's like, I have to say it. Even though it's so relevant to what I was supposed to be doing, because wasn't I supposed to be reading? But, like, the truther channels, some of them claim to be separated from organized religion, but they still believe the same racial, flipped around European pagan doctrine of Christianity. And it's really interesting. It's like, most are covert or overt racists. They believe in replacement theory or theology. And what that is that the church, or really the Gentiles, to be honest, replaces Yasharel. There's that theology. And then, aside from that, there's the theology, of course, that the Europeans running around Africa are the people. And sometimes this can go hand in hand, because the Gentiles who believe in replacement theology also believe that they're replacing these people. But that's not true. And it's all racial, because these people are the white supremacists at the top. And so the other white supremacists and the covert ones in the church, they co-sign these people because they look like them, and they're like, well, they're white, so they have to be the people, because the people have to be white. And it's really funny, because a lot of these people don't even like other white people. But it's just all a whole bunch of bull crap. And all the different lies really flip around what the end times is about. And that's why you can see that Christians are waiting to fly away. Some of them believe that only 144,000 people are going into heaven. And it's like all of these different flipped around narratives of the 144,000 and what it is. I don't even know how they can read that and even get any of the stuff they're getting out of it. And I don't even know if anybody remembers back in the 2010s when all the truther channels kept saying that the world was going to end every year on September 23rd. And then they'd be like, whoops, sorry guys. And they'd be like, the rapture is going to happen, even though rapture doctrine is false anyway. And there's also this new narrative that the 144,000 has something to do with the rapture. But the 144,000 is gonna be Hebrew soldiers of the real Yasharel, not the Europeans running around Africa, eating people's kidneys and stuff. Not those people. Not the Gentiles, which is literally like the exact opposite of what that says. And it's not about who's going to heaven either. That's also like really, really weird. But they're going to be reincarnated, true Yasharel soldiers that actually have the powers to stand against the Nephilim and to like show signs. But yeah. And then another thing about the end times is, since the end times also revolves around the regathering of the true Yasharel and the nations being judged for different things that have been done to the people. Of course, the church is always talking about flying away and escaping judgment and growing wings and disappearing. And then they had, oh yeah, in that movie Left Behind, I never watched that crap. And my relatives, they're not even religious, which I'm not even going to go into all that, but they're not religious, not that I would consider myself religious, but they didn't even believe in any of that stuff. But even my mom watched that movie. And that's the thing about these bullcrap gospel movies made by these people, is that anybody could watch them, really, and it's all a mess. But my mom watched that movie and she kept trying to get me to watch it, and I was like, I don't even know, 9 or something? No. Yeah, something like that. And I already knew, absolutely not, it's about to be some bull crap. And from the clips I've seen of the movies throughout the years, it's people disappearing in the mall, babies disappearing, and it's also pre-trib, and it's all a mess. And let me not even go into the movie knowing what I heard about that, but I don't even know what else to say. It's just like, the flipped around doctrines have really confused people, because lying about who the people are, to lie about who the people are, you have to like leave out and flip around just about everything. And actually, it really makes the Bible more confusing than it really is. That and the fact that the pagan Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant Europeans removed most of the books. So the Bible that people have now and won't read isn't even half of the Bible. But anywho. No, actually no, another thing. Going back to truther channels. I also felt like, aside from the things I already mentioned with how like, the information can be cool, but after a while it gets boring because none of it is really productive. And it doesn't really help anybody or strengthen faith or help anybody really improve or get anywhere. I also noticed that while they usually try to be very covertly racist, even with the flipped around doctrine, sometimes they were overtly racist, and this would even like make even more people talk junk about the Bible, because of course people believe that the Bible was made by Europeans, even though Caucasian Europeans have never made a religion, except atheism, if you want to consider that a religion, which it is level 1 Luciferianism, and it's a part of the one world religion because it's a part of the broad path to hell. So, but yeah, like some of the things they would say would make people not want to believe the Bible even more. And then the truther channel people, they would just say, oh, here goes some atheists doing what they do and talking junk about the Bible. They're not talking junk about the Bible. They're talking about the fact that you've been in videos saying very racist things about how racism isn't real and how, sure, like these different, I just like to say hoopins, quote unquote, to avoid saying the word that revolves around weapons and starts with the S and has an H and 2 O's. But sure, the racial hoopins are like staged. Like, honestly, I can't think of anyone that people really had a fuss about that went viral that wasn't staged, but acting like racism isn't real is a part of the issue. Because it's just a way to not actually really address things or fix things and just say it's not real because I don't care. Saying that racial slurs don't matter. Talking about or claiming that melanated people just get to run around doing whatever they want, when they want, how they want it, and terrorizing and destroying America. And then when people confront you about that, you say, oh, they're just atheists. Like, I mean, shoot, if that's the Bible, if it really was, they might as well be atheists. But of course it's not. But it's like, there's just so many issues with this. And another thing that made me stop watching channels like that, mostly years and years ago, is because they put too much credit in human beings for the things that happen. Like, I mean, sure, what was I calling it? Weather manip? I don't even remember what I was using to like code the word. I don't even think that's a good enough code, but sure, weather or cloud manip is possible. But like, they act like it's just all about the government and what the government wants. And as if the Most High can't send judgment too. They also act as though men aren't used for judgment. And another thing, acting like people can change what's going to happen. And as if people can like keep the end times from happening. And I think that also, well, not I think, this actually makes me think of sermons I've heard, especially like preachers or ministers or whatever they call themselves, not only acting like America's judgment isn't going to happen, but acting like people can pray America's judgment away, even though America's been in judgment since the 2012s, since the 2010s, but I mean, America's judgment was destined. And like, they say things like people talking about America's quote unquote judgment is doom and gloom. And it's like, oh, and that reminds me of something else. Acting as though America's just being taken down because that's what the government is doing. And as if the Most High doesn't have power over what the government does and doesn't do. And just acting like things aren't supposed to happen and like people are just letting things happen that shouldn't be happening. As if this stuff isn't what should be happening, it wasn't destined to happen, it isn't being allowed to happen. So yeah, pretty much just like a lot of covert and even sometimes somewhat overt or completely overt white nationalism or religious doctrine. And like, also the boy I mentioned, I don't know, 30 minutes ago, he's actually a part of some of the true Yasharil that never got sent on the slave trade. So they like never lost their heritage and they never lost their identity. So with all the stuff that he knows already, I can only imagine how many YouTubers he used to like that were the truther channels, but of course they're in all this false doctrine that really revolves around white nationalism, and he just like had to stop watching them for those reasons too. So anyways, ladder of Jacob, 35 minutes later. Chapter 1. Now Jacob went to his uncle Laban, and he found a place and fell asleep there, laying his head on a stone, for the sun was set, and there he saw a vision. And behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, whose top reached to heaven, and the top of the ladder was a face as of a man, hewn out of fire. Now it had 12 steps up to the top of the ladder, and on each step up to the top were 2 human faces, on the right and on the left, 24 faces seen to their breast, on the ladder. But the middle face was higher than them all, which I saw made of fire, to the shoulder of the arm, very terribly, more than the 24 faces. And as I looked, behold, the messengers of God ascending and descending thereon, but the Lord was set above it. And he called me, saying, Jacob, Jacob. And I said, Here I am, Lord. And he said to me, The land whereon you sleep I will give to you, and to your seed after you. And I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand of the sea. Through your seed all the earth will be blessed, and they that dwell thereon, to the last times, the years of the end. My blessing with which I have blessed you will pour out from you to the last generation. All in the east and the west will be full of your seed. In fact, funny thing in chapter 3 is that it ends on dots. So of course, as usual, there's always going to be stuff taken out and left out. But I'll read chapter 3. I forgot about this. And while I yet spoke my prayer, there appeared a voice before my face, saying, Seracle, prince of them that rejoice, you that are over visions, go make Jacob to understand the interpretation of the dream, which he saw, and show him all things, whatever he saw, but first bless him. And the chief messenger, Seracle, came to me, and I saw. It was a face, terrible. But I did not fear before his look, for the face which I had seen in my dream was more than this, and I did not fear the face of a messenger. Then the messenger said to me, What is your name? And I said, Jacob. He said to me, Your name will no longer be called Jacob, but your name will be like my name, Israel. And when I came from Fandana in Syria, or Fandana, I don't know, to meet my brother Esau, he came to me and blessed me, and called my name Israel, and did not tell me his name until I heard him. And then he told me, because you were ... Chapter 4. But this he said to me, The ladder which you saw, which had 12 steps, having 2 human faces, which changed their appearance. Now this ladder is this age, and 12 steps are the times of this age. And the 24 faces are the kings of the lawless heathen of this age. Under these kings, your children's children and the line of your sons will be tried. They will rise up against the lawlessness of your descendants, and will lay this place waste through 4 descendants, because of the sins of your descendants, and of the substance of the forefathers. This place will be built in the temple of the name of your God and your fathers. But through the wrath of your descendants it will be desolate until the 4th descent of this age. For you saw 4 visions, or faces. Chapter 5. The first that stumbles on the steps, messengers ascending and descending, and faces in the midst of the steps. The Most High will raise up and hear of the descendants of your brother Esau, and all the lords of the nations of the earth will accept it, who have done evil against your seed, and will be given into his hand, and he will be hardly borne by them. But he begins to rule them with violence and to reign over them, and they cannot resist him until the day when his decree goes forth, against them to serve the idols, and to all them that appear in such a cause, and so many to the Most High out of your race, so many to, I don't even know what this says, Doc and a gargle. Maybe that could be the thumbnail, that word right there. Chapter 6. And know, I'm going to have to Google that though. And know, O Jacob, that your seed will be strangers in a strange land, and men will mistreat them with bondage and lay blows. I'm going to try to be mature today. On them daily. Although this all does revolve around SRA though, so I could say that. But the Lord will judge the people whom they serve. When a king arises and fights, then there will be to that place, I can't really see that place. Then your seed, even Israel, will go forth out of the bondage of the heathen who ruled over them with violence, and will be set free from all reproach of their enemies. For this king is the head of every revenge and retribution of them that make attacks on you, Israel. And at the end of the age, for the miserable will rise and cry, and the Lord hears them, and will be softened, and the mighty lets himself pity their sufferings. Because the messengers and chief messengers pour out their prayers for the saving of your race, then their women will bear much fruit, and then the Lord will fight for your race. Chapter 7. But whereas you saw messengers descending and ascending on the ladder, in the last times there will be a man from the Most High, and he will desire to join the upper with the lower. Before his coming, your sons and your daughters will prophesy of him, and your young men will see visions of him. For there will be such signs as these at the time of his coming. A tree felled by the axe will drop blood. Boys of 3 months old will speak rationally. A child in his mother's womb will proclaim his way. A young man will be as an old man. And then comes the expected one, whose path will be perceived by no man. Then the earth will rejoice, because it has received the glory of heaven. And that's the funny thing. That's something else I noticed. Religious organizations have also really confused people, because I noticed that a lot of people think that the Bible or God in general starts when Jesus is born, which just shows they've never read the Bible. But that's because that's what religious organizations have taught. When people think of the Bible, they think of the gospel. Not even really the Bible, just a few books or maybe even a few verses from the New Testament. But overall, when people think about God, they think about Jesus. Not saying, of course, Jesus is God, but they don't think about the full story because they don't know the full story. I remember, this was a long time ago, I had this boy ask me, if Jesus is God, then why did he have to be born? And I was like, that's not how the story starts. And another thing is that he was prophesied since Adam and Eve. I'm not gonna lie, but this boy said to me, really makes me think of how brainwashed and confused people are by these different organizations. Because it received the glory of heaven, that which was above will be below. This does make me think about the whole as above, so below thing, which is opposite of on earth as it is in heaven. Now, what I could think with this is, one, Jesus coming down from heaven and coming to earth and becoming a man to be the sacrifice, because that was the only thing that could actually like make up for the breaking of laws that are illegal in the realm of the spirit. And this was the only ritual that could really compensate for the laws of the universe being broken. And then the other thing that this makes me think of is the whole crushing the serpent with your feet verses. So the enemies or the demons and their agents that are on earth above going back below. Also the fact that once the serpent seed, the religious Yasharel and the pagan Roman Catholic Church hung Jesus, purgatory no longer existed. So that also means that the people who were like on earth then and the demons now will be sent to hell. Because before Jesus died, the ritual that could compensate for the universal laws being broken hadn't happened yet. So people went to purgatory, and the good people went to the African, what is it called? The African paradise, yeah. The African paradise. And this was something that the Yasharel and other Africans and a lot of other people talked about. Going to paradise with their family. That's where people would go. But once the ritual happened, people could go to hell or they could go to heaven. Although there is a lot of doctrine that nobody's actually in hell or heaven yet. But yeah, that does make you think too though. Paradise is depicted in a lot of African media especially. You'll see the trees, the lions, people talking to their family, seeing their relatives, things like that. That which was, okay, I already read that. Yeah, I was at that which was above will be below. And the royal root. Well, no, that also means the third thing I could say, which goes along with the those who humble themselves will be exalted, and those who exalt themselves will be humbled. Also, another verse, pretty much, those who serve others will be at the top, and those who are at the top will be at the bottom. Which, of course, Jesus came to serve others. The religious leaders felt like they were above, but they're also going to be made below. Not just about going to hell, but like spiritually, they were lesser too. And it was already a known fact that certain groups of people who were over the religious organizations didn't even believe in the supernatural. So that's the third, that which was above will be below, that I could think of. And I can't think of anything else right now. And a royal root of your seed will grow up, and he will increase and destroy the power of the evil one. But he himself will be a savior of the heathen, and the rest of them that are weary, in a cloud which shades the whole world from the heat. For otherwise, that which is disordered cannot be put in order, if he did not come. Otherwise, that which is below cannot be joined to that which is above. In chapter 8, now with his coming, images of brass and stone and all graven things will utter their voice for 3 days. For 3 days long. So I'm assuming this may have something to do with the fire baptism and how Jesus went to hell to get the key of death. And also to walk through the fire to also take that punishment from people, which goes along with how he was the only thing that could compensate for the laws of the universe being broken. And they announced to the wise men and let them know what will befall on earth, and by the star they will know the way to him. When they see him on earth, whom the messengers did not see above, then the Almighty will be found in a body on the earth and encompassed by the arms of a mortal, and he renews the state of man and restores Adam and Eve that died through the fruit of the tree, which Adam symbolizes men, Eve symbolizes women, because people go back to both of them, of course. This also goes along with like how in SRA, or really sex rituals in general, especially on males, when God talks about how this affects men or people in general, he'll actually it's hard to explain. It's actually really hard to explain now to think about it. But like pretty much how it like takes Adam and Eve out of their original nature because of the soul fracture it causes, and how it like changes Adam from what he was designed for to like being confused and being out of order. I don't even think that was a good explanation. That died through the fruit of the tree. Then the deceit of the godless one will be overcome, and all the idols fall on their faces, for they will be put to shame by one who is adorned with honor, because they made lying inventions. From then on they will not have power to rule or to give prophecies, for their honor will be taken from them, and they will remain without glory. For he that has come takes the power and might from them and repays to Abraham the truth, or righteousness, which he promised him. Then he rounds off all that is sharp, and he makes every rough thing smooth, and he casts all unrighteousness into the depths of the sea. And he does wonders in heaven and on the earth, and he will be wounded in the midst of the house of the beloved. But when he is wounded, then also the saving and the end of all corruption draws near. For they that have wounded him will themselves receive a wound, which will not be healed for them forever. But all creatures will worship the wounded one, and many will hope on him, and everywhere, and among all the nations, he will be known. But they that have known his name will not be put to shame, in his own might, and his years will not fail forever. Another thing from the playlist Truth of the Catholic Church, with the old wisdomic videos. Once the pagan Roman Catholics, True Yah Sharil, and the serpent seed ones all came together and hung Jesus on the cross, the Catholics, or the Romans, also started time over. That's why you have the whole BC, AD, and all those different things. And they started time over, and that was the start of the end. And then when it says he cast all unrighteousness into the depths of the sea, I'm sure that has many meanings, but it also makes me think about the one verse or chapter with the pigs and the dude who had been severely broken to the point where he lost his mind, and how the demons were cast into the pigs, and then the pigs were cast into the sea. That makes me think of that too. And a lot of people believe that those were marine spirits, and that's why they were sent into the sea.